Hi, I'm Annika Johnson from Al Johnson's in Sister Bay. I hope you enjoy my new video series called Door County Girl. These are stories of my life, the people and places that I love, and of course how we all survive here in northern Wisconsin. You can come back as often as you like, but don't forget to subscribe to Al's YouTube channel. I'll be posting lots of really cool new videos. So let's go. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Door County Girl. Today I am lucky enough to have the doors just been shut on us, and we are at the Miller Art Museum in Sturgeon Bay. And I have got the opportunity to meet Marie Kimball. She's not in the interview. Beth Meisner Gigstead. And I'm going to murder Helen's name because we all were trying to figure out how would we pronounce Helen's name. And I would have said Helen del Guidice, but I like that it's de Guidice.
Not quite.
Okay, well, Helen's going to introduce herself.
Del Guidice.
Yeah, so
Helen
it's
del
very
Guidice.
Italian, and we had a big conversation about that. So anyway, I'm going to let Helen take it away because I just got a chance to walk around in here. And again, like I say in all my Door County Girl episodes, this is my social life. This is really, really neat for me to come in here. And my first thing I looked at in here was on the wall was Ida Whitney. And I had no idea that Ida Whitney, who went to school with my son, Bo, did these kind of photographs that were so beautiful.
Yeah.
You never know what people do up here. They're all
You
have
never know what
little
people are
secret
up
lives,
to.
little secret hobbies and things like that. So
And a lot of artists are a little bit shy about bringing their artwork out in their studios, and they kind of do it for themselves on their own terms, and they don't necessarily tell people about it. Not everyone is in it for a career. Some people are just doing it for themselves.
right. I mean, I love to do artwork too, but I just like to draw myself and just do little things and keep them around the house. And if someone says, "Oh, I like that," and I'm like, "Well, you can have it if you want it." I mean, everybody's sort of an artist, you know, in their own
hopefully.
in their own way. So, well, I'm going to let Helen. I've got a billion questions,
Okay.
but my first question is how in the world did you get here?
How did I get
Yeah,
here?
I had to touch her because she's lived in Italy for a long time. And now she's sitting here in Sturgeon Bay in this little art gallery.
Yeah.
So you have to tell us about yourself.
I'm a bit of a traveler. I've moved around a lot. I got my education in Chicago, which is where I was born and raised. But I went into the museum industry, and I worked with galleries and museums across the United States. When I graduated from college, I decided that I wanted to go spend time in Italy and paint and get to know my heritage, which my father was from an Italian immigrant. And so we went there for 10 years, and my son went to public school there. And when I came back to the States, I was in San Diego working for the big museums there and building museums from the ground up. They were building a series of new museums, including the Children's Museum and additions to big museums. So I was working on that. And then I got recruited to build a museum in the French Quarter in New Orleans, the Mardi Gras Museum of Costumes and Culture.
Wow.
Yeah, that was for a private collector who was in the business of Mardi Gras. And he had a collection of over 30,000 Mardi Gras costumes dating back to the turn of the century.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was a 2-year project for me to conceptualize that museum for him, design a historical tour, and interpret the history of Carnival through that costuming, put it on display, built a gift shop, the whole 9 yards.
Is it still there?
It managed to barely survive.
I was going to say,
because it is a boutique museum, so there's an entrance fee and things like that. But he managed to finagle his way through the pandemic and stay open, and it's on limited hours, and you can book tours to go through and see it. And he still gives the tour himself,
how
the
cool.
owner of it. So it is still there, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm happy for him. But and then when I had a 2-year contract to do that, and I had a very specific idea about what I wanted to do next, having worked in big museums, built boutique museums, worked on crews, worked independently. I had a real clear idea about what I wanted, and I did a nationwide job search. And of the offers that I got, I just really felt that Miller Art Museum in Sturgeon Bay was the most appropriate for, what I could offer and what I wanted from a place.
And I don't mean to be weird or rude or anything, but for you being so worldly and being everywhere in big cities and overseas and everything, it seems odd to me that you'd want to pick Sturgeon Bay.
Well, I grew up in inner
I
city.
mean, I'm not knocking Sturgeon Bay because I love Sturgeon Bay, but I'm just saying it's unusual for.
Yeah, but I think Sturgeon Bay I think Door County in general, from the view of outsiders, is really quite an exotic place. For people who kind of grow up here and live here all their lives or have lived here for a long time, it's just home to them, and the outside world looks really big and wild. But, for somebody who's never been to or never lived in a place like this, and I was looking at that point in my life, I had been in New Orleans for 2 years, which is
maybe needed a break.
Very intense place, and San Diego and Rome before that. So I was really looking to de-urbanize. I have become more and more interested in the natural world, quiet environments, my personal solitude, and just beautiful surroundings. And so, voila,
What a great way to put that.
Here it is.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. So now, are you married?
I am not married.
And you have a son?
I do.
Is your son grown, or does he live
here
with you?
He just turned, he's going to kill me. He just turned 29. Yeah, he just turned 29.
Okay.
He lives in San Diego. He's an entrepreneur.
Okay.
He has a company that he created during the pandemic, jarring authentic Italian sauces that are divine.
Oh, wow.
And he started just by doing product drops on Instagram and taking food to people when San Diego was in the lockdown. So he was like delivering to people's doors. Then he started doing markets, and now he's doing shelves, and he's looking towards distribution. So
good for him.
Yeah, in a very short time, he has built quite a little empire for himself. So
that's great. You should be proud.
I am.
Wow. Okay, so getting back to you, what got you interested in art when you were real young? Like, what made you want to make your career all about art?
So my father was a bit of an arts collector on a sort of low-level basis. He wasn't spending big money on things, but he was like a magpie. He just had to have it, and he would go to estate sales and he would just have to have it. And he had tons of things, even in the basement of our house. Just, I never knew what I would find when I went down there and started opening a box and digging out, and out would come like a box of Art Deco jewelry, or out would come, an alabaster statuette, or he was just really kind of an artistic. And my mother was
was he an artist?
He was not an artist.
But he liked to collect things that were art.
Do you know what? I take that back. He was an artist in his own right. He was a builder, and he grew up on the south side of Chicago in Little Italy. His father owned a business there, and post-Depression era, he made a little money in the Italian neighborhood, and he started buying houses that had become run down during the war, Flatiron buildings, gray stone buildings in Lincoln Park, which was a somewhat decimated neighborhood at that point. And he started going down to Maxwell Street and getting the old architectural, the crystal door handles and the archways and stained glass windows. And he started rebuilding these houses, putting in tin ceilings and then selling them for a fortune.
Oh, wow.
And or renting them out. So
he had a real good envisionment of what
he had a vision. So he really did have I claim that he's not an artist, but he actually clearly was, because he had an artistic vision. He had an eye, and he loved that stuff. He just loved it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and then your mother?
My mother was a musician. She went to music school, DePaul Music School, and in Lincoln Park, and she went into the field of care. So she went into the field of music therapy, helping people. And her ultimate place that she ended up was in hospice, using music therapy for patients in hospice.
Oh, that's great.
She's here with me in Door County.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, your mother lives here too? Does
here.
she still do any hospice, or?
She doesn't.
I always said that Door County, Okay, so I know that there's not a lot of children who are in hospice, but we, at one time when my son was in hospice, there wasn't really a lot of opportunities to have hospice for kids. So we had a choice whether we wanted to stay at the hospital or right outside of the Children's Hospital in Milwaukee was a small hospice back there. And I remember it because I used to take walks behind the hospital, and it was beautiful, like a beautiful setting, beautiful gardens, beautiful everything. And that was even before I knew Bo was going to be in hospice. And I thought, wow, that would be a really beautiful hospice to be in. And then they offered for Bo to go there.
Yeah.
But he just wanted to be home here in Door County. And I remember after Bo passed away, my brothers and I always thought that there should be a hospice here in Sturgeon Bay for, not just adults, but for children too. And we were thinking, this is a long time ago, that right across from the hospital, that MRI place there, that was no longer, and they thought that would be a good little building there for a hospice because it's close to the hospital. But that's getting off the beaten track. But your mom did a good thing by...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard work.
Yeah.
She drove
But
all
still
over the city of
peaceful
Chicago
work
and into the suburbs to visit patients in their
so
home.
nice to give to the people because that really meant a lot, I'm sure, to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you got interested in art.
I got interested in art. It was always just kind of around me. Our house had Persian rugs and art on the walls and small sculptures. And I was living in Lincoln Park, which in the 1970s was a creative community. That was the art spot. That's where artists went to live a little cheaper, one of those pioneer communities in the 70s. Although there was a wealthy community around that. So that was one of those nice mixes that you had these creative people that were kind of living on the edge. And then you had wealthy people who were interested in what they were doing. So, that just impacted me. And I just always, everyone in my family were musicians. My mother, even my father played ragtime piano. And
what did your mother play?
My mother she plays guitar, piano, harp.
Lots of things.
She studied opera. Yeah.
Wow.
She was always into music. And then of course went into music therapy. But I expressed that creativity visually as opposed, I never could connect to a musical instrument, or really get to know it. I didn't have the patience to learn the chords and the keys. I didn't understand it. But I was constantly drawing. I was gluing things together. I was binding things with wire, like found objects. And I loved to sew. So I was making, when I was 16, the first real identity as an artist that I had was I found out about Edie Sedgwick and Andy Warhol in the factory. And I just loved Edie Sedgwick, and I wanted to be Edie Sedgwick. And she had those huge Betsy Johnson paraphernalia earrings, and I couldn't find those earrings anywhere. I mean, nobody had earrings like that. So I was going to the hardware store and buying big metal discs and pulling my ear,
big with fishing lures.
Yeah, and so I started create fishing lures and all kinds of things. I had little plastic tin soldiers with pins poked in them, and whatever I could get to put big earrings on.
Cool.
So jewelry making was sort of my first little jaunt into claiming myself as an artist,
And then, did you stay with jewelry making?
I did. I actually, as a teenager, I moved to Paris and spent 2 years living in the city of Paris in France. And I had a little job with a sculptor. I worked in a sculptor studio. And my job was, he was a very successful sculptor, and he had a chef that came in from the country every day, and there was this 4-hour lunch at our job. And my job was to be at her beck. I was her servant, and she would send me to the market with a list. And the first French I learned was, all the lettuces and herbs and vegetables so that I could negotiate at the market. Mm-hmm. One of the people at the market was this woman who sold notions and ribbons and buttons and things that were discontinued from the fashion houses. I mean, Chanel, Givenchy, all of those. And she was selling these ribbons secondhand, and they weren't really cheap then in my memory. I was kind of indulging myself, and I would take those ribbons and make collars and the buttons draping down and beads. And then on the weekends, I would go stand out in front of the subway, put a little cloth down, and put these elaborate jewelries, and people would go, how much is that? 50 francs, I would say, as if I knew that was what it was worth, So
I'm an up-and-coming
I had no idea. I was
artist. Yes,
guessing
yeah.
what I could get out of the person.
And people were buying
And
it.
people bought them. Yeah. So I had this little pocket
That's
money.
awesome. I love that.
I still make jewelry today. I still like
Do you
to
sell it somewhere here?
I don't. You know, I bought a property last year, which I love, and it has a beautiful outbuilding that I'm converting. And, you know, for me, you know, my career has been very demanding. And so my artistic pursuits have kind of always been secondary. You know, at a certain point in my life, I made a choice that I was a museum specialist first and an artist second. So I'm always kind of like in the closet, as it were, as an artist. So, you know, now that I have this space and I'm finishing out to be a real studio and maybe eventually down the line, a retail space, but at least it's a place where I insist that I have to go and do something.
I want to see all your baubles and earrings
Yeah.
and everything.
So then I go in there
yeah.
and I'm not really obligated like a gallery might be or a boutique might be. I'm not obligated to anybody, but I put a sign on the road when I'm in the studio and people can come visit me. And, you know, and I'm in there making things, and that's what I'm doing. You know,
Careful
just to
what you
force
say
myself.
on here. People are going to come knocking on your
Yeah,
door
oh my God.
24/7.
I'm just making things right now, but just to force myself to be committed to my own artistic practice.
Okay, so how did you ever want to become a museum curator?
So I started in museums in Chicago. A friend of mine was working in museums, and he was in building exhibitions. That was his job, and he still today is working for the Art Institute in the exhibitions department. And he gave me my first job. We were friends, and he said, hey, I've got temporary work in the museum. You know, we need to hire people, and you've got these skills. And so I became a museum preparator. And the preparator is the person who builds the pedestals and paints the walls and handles the artwork and unwraps and crates and cleans and generally prepares the exhibits to be designed.
And did you have to just learn it yourself?
Oh, he taught me.
So he taught you.
Yeah,
So you
you're
were
very much
hands-on, but you were learning
You're
as
very
he
hands-on.
was. Oh,
It's
yeah.
a really interesting career that few people know about, a preparator.
I've never heard of one.
Yeah, sometimes it's specific to museums, and they're very important. It's usually a team of people, and they're very vital to getting the exhibitions up. And hopefully each member of that team has a specialized skill. Maybe somebody's really good with lighting, or maybe someone's really good with, you know, painting. You know, my thing was I was the paint master, so I could make a wall that was quite fuzzy look perfect. You know, with the right support, you can do stuff like that. And so you get people that can do those kinds of things. But yeah, and from there, you know, because I had skills like I could speak fluent Italian and various things, I started getting set to work helping the curators and helping in the collections management. And in San Diego, I ended up being that sort of main person that worked and helped the collections management. So I had experience in all of these things, which led me to being able to sort of design a museum from the ground up, understanding all the moving parts of the various departments and being able to envision the ultimate, you know, design of something, because I had literally passed through every department.
So you can envision what you want to do. So you know that you come in, it's like a canvas for you almost, where you can create what you want for space and what you're going to put there. Was it sad for you to leave your other jobs, like when you were in Rome or when you were in Italy or if you were in San Diego? I mean, how is that a little bit bittersweet because they were your babies?
It is. It's always sad. I'm very affectionate towards the museums I've worked for, and I'm very affectionate towards this one that I currently work for. I will someday down the line always kind of do this when I think about Miller Art Museum. And Miller Art Museum has such a beautiful story. You know, that's one of the things I was looking for, is that museums tell stories, and this is just such a unique and special story. But yes, I do. I always feel like I'm part of that museum family, even if there's nobody left there that knows me anymore. Or, you know what I mean? I walk in there like I built this. So, you know,
Hello.
like those walls are my walls. I've touched those walls. I built that pedestal. You know, I used to work in wood shops and build pedestals and plexis and things like that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Do you go visit quite a bit. Do you ever get to go back? And
I do. Yeah, I do. Whenever I'm in a place where I have had an impact, I go to those places first,
That's good.
I want to see what their shows are like. I want to see how their presentation has changed. And
Do you ever get where someone takes your place and then you don't really like what they're doing?
no, I don't.
They are good at what they do as well.
I don't, and I'll tell you why. Because the business of exhibits is they go up and they come down. So museums are constantly changing, right? I think sometimes people get attached to what they've always known about a place, especially, a museum. But a museum is a place of learning, a place of change, a place of progress. And so for me, being an exhibit, it goes up and 6 weeks later, it comes down and we're talking about something else. That allows me to become, the best expert I can manage about this topic. And then now we're talking about something completely different. So it's an opportunity for me as an employee or as a museum person on the inside, a constant opportunity for growth.
That's good. It would be almost like reading the same book over and over and over again if you never changed a museum.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was telling you a funny story about the Tom Utek painting.
Yeah.
And how I came in every day to the Edgewood Orchard Gallery to just stare at that big, large painting on the wall. And one day it was just gone. And I was like, wow. Like there was something in its place, and I'm like, what? I was almost lost.
How does that happen?
Oh, but there was something lovely in its place that maybe I would have never seen before.
Right.
And I remember going into Appleton, and I remember seeing Judy Ekholm's paintings up on the wall in their art store downtown on College Avenue, and it was all up on the walls too, but they weren't like the ones I'm used to seeing. They were giant ones. And it was an exhibit though, because all of them were sold. They all said sold.
Right.
And they were all big, beautiful paintings. But I noticed that in that store, they also changed those pictures all the time.
Sure.
But they're selling everything downstairs, but then up on the walls, they changed everything.
Yeah.
And I may not be someone who goes in to buy artwork there, but I would love to go in and see what they put up on the walls.
Right.
So that's kind of neat that you say it that way, because it has to change.
It has to.
I mean, otherwise people wouldn't keep coming back to the museum.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this particular exhibit that we have now has offered us a lot of rapid change in the last few years. But that's the power of art, for me, is that, you go in there and there's this one painting that just completely speaks to you, and you can go back and have a relationship with that painting over and over again and discover new things about it, and it tells you new things about yourself. And
yeah, no one else can look at it. That's mine. Go away.
Maybe you're going to find a subject of books that you want to follow now because it feeds into that. That's it. That's the power of art.
Yeah, I loved this one. It was really eye-catching right in the middle. When you first walk in and that one just pops, it makes you want to come in.
Yeah, Emily Rudolph. She's a young artist, young Wisconsin female artist. So,
well,
really
explain this exhibit. You told me all about it when you came in, and I was like, what is this exhibit?
So this is the 47th Juried Annual Exhibition. So the Juried Annual is the second oldest traditional exhibit that the Miller Art Museum has. Only the High School Salon of Art has 48 years to its history. And the Juried Annual has now 47 years to its history. So it originally included 4 counties, including Dorr, Brown, Manitowoc, don't quote me on this right now, but 4 counties in the vicinity of Dorr County. And then after about 15 or 20 years, they added another county, and then another 10 years went by and they added another county. And when I came, what I noticed is that there were very few submissions, and it was the same people submitting over and over again.
Oh,
right?
Then there's no change. Yeah,
there's no change. But that fabulous work. But I wanted to see that work converse with other work. I wanted to see. I always look at artworks as talking to each other, right? Because I can take one painting and put it next to this sculpture, and there's just something bad going on. It's just they got to separate, like they can't talk to each other. But then all of a sudden you put one next to the other. That's the art of curation. One next to the other. And if it's a color relationship or some kind of a segue that makes me start thinking of something here, and then over here it takes me to a further part of that road, that's the art of curation. And so I just really wanted to see these things that were being submitted talk with other artworks. And so we had big discussion about the pros and cons, and we opened the competition statewide in 2021.
And so anyone can submit their artwork, and it can be any form of artwork.
Well, there are parameters. There are, things that make you eligible or ineligible. So it's all Wisconsin residents, age 18 and older. We are committed to two-dimensional artwork, because the Miller Art Museum our collection is committed to two-dimensional artwork.
And explain that real quick, two-dimensional, to people who don't know what that is.
Two-dimensional for me is not more than 5 inches deep.
Okay.
So it's not that it has to be flat, but it doesn't have a form.
Okay.
Right? It's generally oriented to the wall.
Yeah.
I always say if I can use one nail to put it on the wall, it's a two-dimensional piece.
Perfect. Okay.
It's not going to poke anybody in the eye.
Now we learned something new today.
Yeah. But I don't have, for me, I don't have any restrictions on what those materials are, as long as it is a two-dimensional artwork that can be oriented to the wall.
Okay.
So we have glass ceramic, glass mosaic. I haven't gotten any ceramic pieces so far, although some have been submitted. There's a piece of neon in this show.
You have fabric,
we have
needlework.
Textiles, we have photographs. So I like that intermingling of the variety of materials that people are using. There's collage. Sometimes we had a gentleman last year that did drawings with highlighters. So I'm real open to those materials and encourage that kind of creativity in people. But it is a competition show. You submit up to 2 artworks, and we have a panel of 3 jurors each year that are selected by the museum team. Those jurors are art industry professionals. My secret recipe with that is to have someone in education, a professor of art of some sort, someone in the business end, a gallerist, someone who's used to making hard selections, and then a practicing artist, so that you have 3 different points of view of examining artwork. And so far, I think that's working pretty well.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. What a neat to put this together right here. That was what happened. These are the winners of that?
These are the winners. So this year we had 344 submissions, which was a 45% increase from last year. So opening it up statewide has invited more people into the exhibition. Now, you might say that dilutes the focus on Door County. But what I say is that creates a space for Door County to network with the rest of the space. For every artwork from abroad in the state that we put on the wall, Miller Art Museum's name goes on a website, it goes on a resume, it goes on people's Instagrams, they start following us, and we become part of the bigger conversation of our state. So it goes back to Gerhard Miller's idea of he wanted to bring Door County to the world and bring the world to Door County. And I felt and our team felt that was a really brilliant way to fulfill that particular desire.
Wow, they're so lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
How long have you lived
And Door
here?
County's holding its own.
What's that?
I would say I think it's about 48% of the artworks on the wall are from Door County artists.
Really?
So Door County,
and it isn't
in spite
even
of that, is
because
holding its
they're
own.
from Door County. It's just the pieces that they chose to put in here.
The jurors look at these pieces anonymously.
They don't even know where they're coming from.
They don't know the names. They don't know what town. They don't know websites. They don't look at the people's bios. When the submissions come in, it's a bit of work, but as the submissions come in, any information that that artist includes in their submission, I go through it. If they put a website link, I click on that link and I spend 10 minutes finding out who they are. If they have a bio, I read it. That way, when we are in the room, I don't have any say in what gets selected. Only the jurors can negotiate between themselves for in or out.
Good way to do it.
And they give out awards. I facilitate the process and I hold the information, have access to the information. Should they want to know a little bit more about an artist, I can provide that.
Sure.
Anonymously. So it's just in an effort of fairness that's the way that's done. And they negotiate with each other to make those selections. One person might really not want that one to make it in, and the other two really, really want it. So it becomes a 2 against 1, or
That's right.
you might have one here, and this one has to.
That's the way it goes.
They both have to talk that one into making going their way.
Yeah.
But they also give out 7 awards, 8 awards. The jury actually decides on 6 of them, and then the museum staff decides on 2. So we give out monetary awards, which are really great. And I brought this to show you. So the top award is the Gerhard Miller Award of Excellence.
Oh, wow.
And it has a monetary, honorarium to it, but it also comes with the Gerhard Miller Award of Excellence,
wow.
which is
I
a
never
coin.
knew this even existed.
Yeah.
It's like a large coin.
And I have people tell, the museum, all of us, we hear these stories from people that come in and they're like, you know what, in whatever year I won that Gerhard Miller Award, and that coin sits on my desk, and it was such a big moment for me. So it's really interesting for me to hear that how important and influential that kind of an accolade is to people.
Who won this year?
This year, Ida Whitney won.
Ida Whitney won.
She sure did.
She took the honors again.
She
That is
sure did.
incredible. I'm blown
Harbor.
away by those two right there. That's amazing.
Bailey's Harbor, just out of college. And she's one of those people that kind of quietly has been doing this work.
Her dad used to work with us at Al's. He was a cook.
And she had I had never met her before. She had never participated with with the museum in any way.
Good for her.
And when she came to deliver her work, I was like, why don't you volunteer with us?
That is awesome.
But we try to examine the works through the eyes of Gerhard Miller. And what would Gerhard Miller would think was done with excellence? And that may not necessarily be a landscape, but what would he be most interested in, their process, their handling? And what we really liked about that piece, not only the sense of composition, the recognizability of that place, but that she had used a process called cyanotype. And cyanotype is very particular. What she does is she takes digital photograph, and then she has that photograph transformed into a negative, like a film negative. And then she takes that negative and she has it produced in the cyanotype process. Cyanotype is a blue ink. You can see the blueness of her work. And it's what they use to make blueprints out of. Oh. So instead of it actually being printed the way a photograph is, it's printed the way an architectural diagram would be.
Oh, interesting.
The cyanotype is what makes it a blueprint.
I'm proud of her. That's great.
So just that she had thought about it on that many levels and transformed her original medium so many times before having a finished product, there's a sense of excellence there that she was striving for. And that's why we ultimately chose to give her that prize.
And how long have you been here?
I've been here, I came here in 2019.
2019.
And a few months later, we were in the lockdown.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about if they wanted to purchase something in here? Is things for sale?
They are. Not everything is for sale, but that's another benefit of juried art shows in general, and certainly this one, that it is an opportunity not only for an artist to network with other artists, get their name out there, meet people, be seen potentially by galleries, be seen in platforms like this one that you're providing, but they can also have that artwork for sale.
Okay. And what is your hours here so people can come to this museum, Miller Art Museum, and check it out?
We are not open on Sunday. So we are Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. On Mondays, we're open till 7 alongside the library to offer working people at least one day a week that they can come after hours.
Right. And for everybody that doesn't know it, it is in the library. It's a section of the library, which is really a nice section. I mean, it's separate from the library, but quiet and peaceful in here. So
designed and built by Gerhard Miller.
Yeah. My mom loved Gerhard Miller. She loved him. She used to bring him cookies and things like that.
Yeah.
Him and his wife. Yeah.
We hear stories all the time, sometimes accompanied by tears and, sort of passionate.
Yeah.
We hear very passionate stories about Gerhard Miller. I sadly never had the opportunity to meet him.
Yeah, I walked around a little and saw his little desk back there, and I have the same exact rose mauling tin that he has to put his paints in. Yeah. I just have the tin, but I have the same one.
So that setup is called in the museum world a diorama, when you set up sort of a scene to make it look like it's a living scene. And his grandson had given us that furniture. And when I arrived, I was like, oh, what's all this furniture? And they're like, oh, that's Gerhard Miller's studio. And I'm like, well, let's get going on that. And it has his paint palettes and his paint.
Yes,
so,
it's really cool.
Tried to recreate it to look like we had an unfinished painting by him.
Right,
so
you could almost envision him sitting there painting when you're walking by. You're like, wow, where's Gerhard? Did he go to the bathroom? I'm like,
as if frozen in the moment.
Yes, he should be right there.
You've interrupted the scene.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. I'm so happy that you could tell us about this. Is there anything up and coming that you want to tell everybody that you have that is important or that you want people to know about? So,
you know what? We have a new employee, Marie Kimball. I'm going to start with that. I have a couple things to tell you. But Marie Kimball has designed, month by month, is designing programming, really engaging programming for families, for adults, learning opportunities, fun, creative opportunities. So definitely check our website to look at that calendar as the weeks go by. If you're looking for something creative to do, that's something that we've never really had at this level before. So it's really exciting for us. But the exhibitions that are coming up, the next one after this is going to be a retrospective of the life and work of Carsten and Ellen Toppelman.
Oh, yeah, that will be a
for the
great
50th
one.
anniversary of Hanseatic, which closed at the death of Carsten last year. And I've been working with his children. And accompanying that exhibition, we also will be having new acquisitions from James Ingerson. So he's definitely, along with Gerhard Miller, a legacy artist for the museum and a very important part of our collection.
Both incredible.
So we'll have Mr. Ingerson's prized possessions, as he puts it, upstairs. And
I'll definitely.
And then we start the new year with a very aggressive, experimental, and interesting design of artists for both the upstairs and the downstairs.
Okay,
Permanent
that's
collection.
great. Some good things to look forward to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I love this. This is great. I don't usually get to do things like this, and it was so peaceful just to walk through.
Stop by and chat sometime.
I
Come
will.
see our
I bought a couple things over there,
Nice.
and even though it's a tiny store, it's really got neat things.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Door County Girl, and don't forget to like and subscribe at the bottom of the page. But please, even if you're just visiting Sturgeon Bay, just take an hour or so just to come in here and check out the museum. It's ever changing, like she said, and you'd be surprised at some of the art that you might gravitate towards that you would never even think that you would like. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. Bye everyone. See you next time. Thanks for watching Door County Girl. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.